Deep, very serious.
Hello, everybody. This is Mentor Lawyer. And after a long week with very few sleeping hours on every night, working hard late into the night, early into the morning hours of the next day, waking up early, going to court, 2 weeks in a row, we have a verdict, and it was guilty as charged on all charges. A very sad moment, a very sad day. It is still very sad that this is where a bad decision to go with the hitman option led everyone. And I thought that the victim impact statements from the father and the mother of the victim, Phil and Ruth Markel, were magnificent, were poignant, were touching, and very realistic about the bad consequences, the butterfly effects of the bad decision to go with the hitman option that Donna that Donna chose. That Donna chose, that Donna put her family in peril by exposing them to criminal liability and exposing herself to criminal liability for a very bad decision. I wanted to first give a huge thanks to the jurors for their service. I know it is tough to be in a jury, to follow very strict rules, to not pay attention to all the commotion going on around this case, to focus on listening and paying attention to the evidence, to not show expressions of how you're leaning one way or the other, but trying to be fair to both sides and listening to both sides. I thought they did a great job and they achieved a correct result in this case, in my opinion, of course. I would be grateful for the opportunity to talk to any of the jurors. I think it is something that I would do with great respect, with protection for the anonymity if they prefer to just be off camera, for example. But it is very helpful to everyone involved in this process to hear the perspectives from the jurors, because we have people on the outside looking who have a lot of experience in this case, a lot of knowledge about this case. And the hope is, of course, that we're going to get jurors that don't have all this knowledge, don't have all these preconceived notions. And I think it is very instructive for everyone involved in the justice process to understand why, did the system work? Were the deliberations fair? Were they thinking similar to what outside observers and analysts were thinking about how the evidence should be looked at in this case? What evidence was more convincing than other evidence? So it would be amazing for me to have the opportunity for the third time to interview at least one juror from one of these cases. And of course, I've interviewed a juror from the first trial back in 2019. I interviewed a juror from the Catherine McBanua trial. I tried to interview jurors for the Charles Adelson trial, and although they were very respectful, the ones that I was able to reach, and they reached back to me and they declined, and I totally respect that. And obviously, if the jurors in this particular case don't want to talk, I, of course, will respect that. But if they do want to talk, it's easy to reach me. My contact information is on the YouTube channel. I want to obviously express what Ruth and Phil expressed, both inside the courtroom in their victim impact statements, but also outside the courtroom when they gave their little press conference, which I have, and I'm going to download. I have to edit and upload it, and I'll do it sometime tonight. But the true heroes here, of course, are the law enforcement people, the prosecutors who devote their careers to do a job for us, to pursue justice for wrongs that other humans beings cause at their own expense in many ways, because they're not pursuing careers that will make them rich, that will get them to travel all over the world and enjoy the life of the rich and famous. They're doing very, very hard work and very good work, risky work at times for average pay. Let's put it this way. Nothing sensational, right? Even Georgia Kappelman. I mean, you heard testimony about an attorney that was charging $600 an hour to Wendy Adelson for the divorce. Can you imagine the hourly rate that Georgia Cappleman could command as a criminal defense attorney, or even as any other type of trial attorney in civil cases, complex civil litigation? She's a super talented trial lawyer who's very smart, sharp, on her feet, able to adapt, and she would just be a sensational judge or a sensational lawyer in the private sector. And yet, she has devoted her entire career to being a prosecutor and to pursuing justice for families like the family of Dan Markel and like the family of Samara Fresh. Family of Samara Fresh that wasn't even in the United States, a victim that was all alone, in a sense, with no one here to fight for justice for her, except for Georgia Cappleman and her team. So I'm truly awed at the level of work that they put in into this, not just this case, but every case that I've observed her handling. And I have many of her trials on my channel. And obviously, I was directly involved myself in the Fresh case before the trial, watched the trial, talked to Georgia in her preparation for the trial. I'm not going to take any credit. She won it all by herself. I simply discussed some pieces of evidence that I had gone through during my own deep dive into that case because of my involvement in a civil lawsuit. And just awed at the amount of work that all these people put in to achieve justice in a situation like this, where they could easily just look the other way. And I know a lot of people are out there complaining about how long it took and all this stuff, but there are always political issues, difficulties with decisions, consequences for losing a trial. The cost of losing to a rich defendant could be significant if there is a responsibility to pay their fees. So, yes, there are outside factors that maybe people are not happy about and all the delays that happened. And I know that I started to cover this case before any of the Adelsons were charged. But look how far we have come. We have come a long way towards justice in this case. And that makes me very happy and very proud for our law enforcement, for our prosecutors, for the great job that they did. I also wanted to say that the defense did stumble quite a bit, in my opinion, but I think that they put up a good fight. They did certainly work hard to prepare a defense that they offered the best defense that they could based on very harsh facts, including a client that had tampered with witnesses for this trial. So, given everything, all the adversities and all the adverse evidence in this case, I thought that Josh Zellman and Jackie Fulford, at a very minimum, demonstrated that they put in a lot of hard work also for the client and did their best to provide her fair and just trial. And of course, there were stumbles, there were errors, there were things that they could have done better. There were choices that probably they had too many, whatever they chose was going to look bad anyway. So they had to make some tough choices and it didn't look so good on them. But they did it for their client the way that they're supposed to be, right? So they're not supposed to care about themselves, their reputations. They're supposed to care about presenting the best case possible for their client. And so they did that. They tried. So I think at least congratulations to them for a hard battle. And I don't think it was a huge surprise that they lost that battle. But, at least they tried. They tried their best. And that's what they're supposed to do. So I want to do a little bit of work. So what I'm planning to do here is to share some of what happened today while I edit the interviews that happened right after the verdict was announced. The interviews of the Markel family and the interviews of the prosecutor, Georgia Cappleman. I was there in person. I asked several questions. Now, I want you to stay around and I'm going to tell you an awesome surprise that I have for you. I am the only one, because I know that because I asked. I'm the only one who, at least officially, has a copy of the 2014 calendar. I have the full calendar. Now, I just right now sent it to the printer. I haven't even looked at it yet, but I'm going to share some video and then come back maybe in 10, 15 minutes. But at least I need to at least take a look through it and see if there's anything that I can share today or tonight. And I'm also going to be at the same time editing the videos from the interview with Georgia Kaplan. And then I'm going to switch. I'm going to stop whatever I'm sharing. I'll probably show the closing argument from the defense, maybe, or the rebuttal, because I already did an awesome video for the closing argument for Georgia. So maybe I'll show the defense closing and then the rebuttal from Georgia. And while that's happening, I'm going to be editing the video that I did at the courthouse with Kate. So I had to put all that together so I can share it with you guys. And then finally, I'm going to be looking through the calendar and I'll share any key findings that I made because I now have the 2014 calendar. Okay. So anybody who wants to send me any cases to cover, you can do so at my mentorlawyer@gmail.com. mentorlawyer@gmail.com email, and just put case suggestions on the subject. I can tell you that covering any case takes a couple of things. It takes a lot of money and it takes a lot of time, having a lot of time. So I try not to stretch myself too thin. I'm not a full-time YouTuber. Maybe you guys could have made me a full-time YouTuber, but you haven't. So I'm not a full-time YouTuber. I do this part-time as a hobby. And so obviously there are limited resources. Had I been able to have a full-time assistant like Ladybug when she was here, we'll probably be covering 20, a lot more cases by now. We'll probably be competing with Long Crime Network and Court TV, but we're not there yet. We may someday, but not there yet. So you can send case suggestions, but I already have a long list of cases that no one else covers, that no one else hears about, which is something that I like to do a lot, to bring attention to cases where no one else is paying attention. I don't know. I don't think that there was never no one paying attention to this case. But bottom line is, yes, I'll do what I can. I do want to say something about Sarah Dugan being interviewed. She was sitting there behind. Obviously, the prosecution team knows that Georgia Kaplan was the first chair lead attorney in this case, that she put in the brunt of the work in the case. And Sarah was terrific and awesome. She's also herself a first chair in many murder trials. So it is awesome to have this double team of two amazing lawyers, but it was their choice for just Georgia to be interviewed. It was their decision. So it's not that nobody wanted to ask questions of Sarah. Sarah and Jack Campbell stayed back out of respect for the huge amount of work that Georgia Kaplan put in this case as the lead attorney, the designer of as the lead attorney, as the first chair. She makes the decisions, strategy, where to go with the evidence, how to present it, all that. So she deserves the credit that she got and the applause that she got at the conclusion of the trial. So I will do some commentary. Thank you so much, Louis. Appreciate it. I will do some commentary. I mean, I can tell you that I thought that the first closing argument from Georgia Kaplan was, again, consistent with everything so far in this trial. Super well done, an upgrade from prior arguments and prior trials, much more detailed, and so it was terrific. So to me, I was trying to remain objective. I had people ask me in the jury room, okay, so is she guilty, not guilty? I said, listen, I'm going to wait all the way until the end. I'm going to listen to the closing arguments from Georgia Kaplan, the response and the defense argument by Jackie, and the rebuttal. And only then will I think through everything that I've seen and make some kind of decision if I could right away. And I did do that. I thought that uh, the closing arguments from Georgia were sensational. I thought that they really had a lot of convincing evidence that this was a birthday gift, um, that Donna basically had Charlie do this as a gift for the family, for Harvey, but really it was a gift for Donna. I thought that the closing argument from the defense, I didn't like the fact that Jackie kept pounding on the lag turn, different things like that. So stylistically, I was not very impressed. But they were making a few good points. Some of them were based on misrepresentations to me of the evidence, but there were a few good points they make. So they tried everything possible to poke holes on whatever they could poke holes. So they did find things that they could try to weaken, but I think we could all tell that the overall, that if you look at everything together, right? So each piece of evidence, as the evidence accumulates towards guilt, it also can influence how you view a piece of evidence that, without all the other context, can be maybe innocent or guilty conduct. But then when you see in the overall context, each piece of evidence gets the likelihood of the meaning of that piece of evidence being something innocent becomes less and less. And so that's what we had here. We just had an accumulation of many pieces of evidence that kept getting. So the way that I think about it is, when you start with zero and you have to have a score, let's say a score of 1,500 points to get to the level of beyond a reasonable doubt. And so you start to pile evidence, and for each piece of evidence, you're going to assign it a value. Some's going to be 100, some's going to be 300, some's going to be 10 points. Okay. But it all starts to accumulate. And the problem is that as more evidence accumulates and you're getting closer to that 1,500 that you need for the beyond the reasonable doubt, then if there are pieces of evidence that could be questionable about whether or not they imply guilt, when you see all the other evidence that points in one direction, then the conclusion that this piece of evidence is actually something innocent that had nothing to do with the murder becomes less and less. And so that's the problem that they had. And that's Georgia explained it brilliantly by saying, death by 1,000 cuts. You really have, in this case, you don't have a smoking gun, but you have a lot of pieces of evidence that clearly lead to one conclusion, that this was a planned murder that was done for Donna, that she wanted it done, and that led to where the jury should go, which is a guilty verdict. I thought the rebuttal could have been better, and maybe the time management wasn't the best. I think Georgia in general is amazing at rebuttal arguments, kind of like she's really good at cross. She's really amazing at rebuttal arguments. So it wasn't the best. It wasn't the most brilliant rebuttal. I think she was very, very tight on time. And unfortunately, that detracted from the rebuttal significantly, because she had so many things to comment. She had to leave some stuff out. Like, for example, she said nothing about Luis Rivera, right? The whole situation of Luis Rivera supposedly saying that this murder was done for Wendy, which you could easily respond to, well, Luis Rivera on the witness stand clearly stated he has no clue about anything, that he never dealt with the Adelsons, that all the evidence, all that he knew about why the murder was being done was from Katie through Sigfredo, Sigfredo to him. So all that means, whatever he said, whatever he signed in his deposition, that who was involved and that Harvey and Donna were not involved, that's what he was told back then. And, obviously he would be told the least possible. And what he was told is, this is being done like you guys are heroes. Okay, there's this abusive ex-husband that is horrible. There's an ex-wife who's suffering. She wants to have her kids because the dad is an asshole. So of course he's going to be told something like that, so they don't feel like they themselves are total assholes to go kill a great father for money, right? So of course, they were told that this was for Wendy and not for a grandma who wants to be with her sunshines. Come on. So that's a ridiculous argument. Maybe Georgia thought it was so ridiculous that she didn't even need to address it. But yeah, I think that the rebuttal wasn't as awesome as I was hoping. And it was because, unfortunately, the presentation up front was so awesome and so thorough that she ran out of time. I wish she had asked for more time. And I think the judge gave her a few extra minutes. But that's the only part that was disappointing. I mean, we got an awesome result in the case. I think is the right result. So can't complain too much, right? I do see that I have some questions, so I do want to address them. Lisbeth, how do I do this? Okay, here we go. Hey, Richard, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you, Commissary Tuna, and thank you so much, Louis. So let's go back here to the question. Lisbeth, PCB, I guess, Panama City Beach. ML, you are the first with anything related to the murder of Dan Markel. Today was such a great day. Sarah and Georgia complement each other beautifully. I agree. So many good humans working towards justice. Well, thank you for that. I mean, obviously, I think the credit goes to them. And but thanks for the kind words. Niremode or Nirene, sorry, Nirena now MD, because she was convicted of first-degree murder. Does that keep Donna in max security prison, never in low security prison? So those are different factors. The Florida Department of Corrections basically assigns to each prisoner a classification officer, and the system that they go through for deciding where is the appropriate place for every single person is done on a person by person basis, on the basis of many factors: good behavior, good mental health, the level of the crime, the level of danger that they can present to others, all sorts of things. So it's not a death row situation in this case, right? It's just, if it is life in prison, there's probably not going to be on an open camp somewhere, but it's going to be something that is going to be customized to specific to her behaviors and her characteristics, so the department makes the best decision for each particular person. Paula, thank you for your hard work. Well, thank you guys. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Your donations are much appreciated. Before I start sharing, let me see, is there any question? I was so happy you were able to ask your questions. Thank you so much, Susan. I guess you already watched it on other people's channels, but I still want to work and put it up on my channel. So thank you. Yes, we did buy a huge amount of pizza, and I'll tell you that even the Markels and even Harvey ate some pizza. We were equally kind to everyone. Okay, Joe Gentry, excellent point. And it makes me happy. So what is the point? Gentry Jade, where is that? Sergeant Corbin is really good. I agree. So where is here? This means Charlie and Donna will never get to talk again as long as they live. Yes, that's very likely. ML uses a lot of credit. Oh, okay, come on. Thank you. Appreciate that, of course. I'm grateful for your nice comments. Pickleball Paul. Oh, thank you so much. Nice, kind words. All right. I appreciate all the nice comments, people. I like Sarah Dugan as well. So let me see now here the point. So this is about Donna not being able to speak to Charlie, I guess. Harvey will break the rules and he'll... I see. Yes, that's possible. All right. Congratulations. Thank you, Miss Minner. I appreciate that very much. I'm still planning, by the way, to play a tennis match with Fancy. I hope that she said yes. So now that we have Friday afternoon before she flies back to California, hopefully we'll get to play some tennis maybe tomorrow. We'll see. Tallahassee, the clever town. Yes. Okay, I'm going to have to share something so I can do a little work. I do want to share with you guys the interview that I did. Wow, everybody did. You guys already probably watched it. Here's Matt. Hello, Matt. Nice to see you. Hi, CBC. Nice to see you all. So, all right, let me do this. I'll share this stuff so I can work a little bit. I apologize. I know that you probably just want to chat with me, talk, ask questions. I just want to do a little work because I definitely maybe I could just show it raw. Actually, you know what? Why don't we do that? Do you guys mind? Let's just here. I'll do the edited version later. Let me just go ahead and open raw, and then while I share that, I can go ahead and get the calendar and take a look at it. So let's find those videos. Let me close all these windows first. Too many windows open. Oh, Kate wants to join. Yeah, actually, why not? Do you want to? Let me ask you if Kate wants to join. She can talk about the media reaction and her thoughts. Kate was helping us throughout the whole trial. Let me do that. I'm gonna go start sharing something, and I'm gonna call Kate and ask her if she wants to join here. And let me go ahead and open one of the videos. So 1 second. So here we are, Mentor Lawyer Justice Network. All right. So one of them is still uploading. What is this? Are they all still uploading? What? Huh. Okay. One second. I apologize. I'm trying to find where I put the videos. All right. Let me share. I'll share the trial for a little bit while I get my act together here. So let me do that. We can watch the verdict together. Let's do that. Let's watch the verdict together. I didn't see how Donna reacted on TV. I was there in person, so I want to do that. I want to watch that. Let's do that. Let's go watch the verdict. I'll be okay. Here we go. All right. I'm going to share the verdict video, the live. Here we go. It's about to start. Kate's gonna join the chat. She'll chat with you guys. In the meantime, I'll do some work, and the video is about to start. The verdict. Hello, everybody walking in. So I think Kate's gonna join the StreamYard so that she can at least interact with you guys. Did you see the judge basically told corrections guy to put Donna on? Yes, I did see that, and understandable. I mean, I think that they do that in a situation like this where someone is expected to be totally devastated. Someone who has already discussed the S word in the past, so totally normal, I guess, in this situation. And of course, Judge Everett heard the evidence about all that, so I can tell that it was very, very emotional. This time right there, um, and especially the victim impact statements from Phil Markel and Ruth Markel, that Donna throughout the whole time was still, I guess, denying that she had an involvement, and that I was sitting next to a person who obviously uh, has a deep involvement in this case, was a close friend of Dan Markel, and she just had so many tears, and I mean she was holding them back as much as she could, but it's so sad. This case is really sad all around. So um, we're human beings that care, that have empathy. This was hard all around, including, I think, feeling sorry for the Adelsons
Whatever the
for their
verdict will
stupid
be in
decision.
the case, I do not want there to be any gesturing or anyone making any movements that you either agree or disagree with the verdict. We are going to respect what the jury's decision is, and we are not going to subject them to any displays of emotion, whether it be from the gallery or the parties. If anyone believes they are not capable of following this instruction, I'd ask you to step outside at this time. Mrs. Adelson also as well, once the verdict is read, again, I'm going to advise you, do not have any displays of emotion as best you can. You are to control yourself. Do you understand?
And by the way, one of the new cases that I'm covering, I have ordered the sentencing for the man, and it's going to be wild what happens in the
Please
sentencing.
bring in the jurors. Please remain seated when the jurors come in this particular time.
I'll be right back with the calendar.
If the jury foreperson could please rise.
The
Has
calendar
the jury reached a unanimous verdict? If you please can hand the verdict form to the bailiff.
hasn't gone to the printer yet, so I'm going to reprint right now.
Having reviewed the verdict form, it is in its proper order. At this time, I will publish the verdict. We, the jury, find as follows as to count one of the indictment, first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. Mrs. Adelson, control yourself. Count two. We, the jury, find as follows as to count two of the indictment, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Count three. We, the jury, find as follows as to count three of the indictment, solicitation to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of solicitation to commit first-degree murder. And it is signed and dated by the foreperson. One moment. Members of the jury, the bailiff will escort you to the jury room. Mrs. Adelson, while this was not the outcome I'm sure that you desired, there will not be any further outbursts in front of the jury. If you cannot control yourself, I am going to have
My
to
apologies. I
determine if
missed it
you will
while
be
I was checking at
removed
the
from
printer, so I'm going to go
remainder
back and
of
watch
this
it again.
process.
My apologies.
Once the verdict is read. If the jury foreperson could please rise. Has the
Okay.
jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yeah.
If you please can hand the verdict form to the bailiff.
I can tell you that from my view, I was watching from behind. What I could see of Donna is that at the moment that she found out that it was guilty in the first count, she went like this.
Having
with
reviewed the
hand up,
verdict form,
the
it
defense
is in its
attorney.
proper order.
It's like, let me go.
At this time,
And
I
then
will
she-
publish the
whatever.
verdict.
I'm watching from the front now for the first time.
We, the jury, find as follows as to count one of the indictment, first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. Mrs. Adelson, control yourself. Count two. We, the jury, find as follows as the count two of the indictment. Conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Count three. We, the jury, find as follows as the count three of the indictment. Solicitation to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of solicitation to commit first-degree murder. And it is signed and dated by the foreperson. One moment. Members of the jury, the bailiff will escort you to the jury room. Mrs. Adelson, while this was not the outcome I'm sure that you desired, there will not be any further outbursts in front of the jury. If you cannot control yourself, I am going to have to determine if you'll be removed from the remainder of this process. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Do you need a moment to collect yourself? Before the jurors are brought back in, we will take a brief 2-minute break. Please give her tissues if she needs them.
To the defense and to your honor.
When the jurors are brought back into the room, does the defense wish to have the jurors polled before they are discharged?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well. Please bring back in the jurors so we can conclude with their portion of the trial. Members of the jury, before I discharge you for this evening, I am briefly going to poll you concerning whether your verdict is unanimous at the request of one of the parties. When you hear your last name, please appropriately respond. Give to you before you are discharged. Please listen carefully. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank you for your time and consideration of this case. I also wish to advise you of some very special privileges that are enjoyed by jurors. No juror can ever be required to talk about the discussions that occurred in the jury room except by court order. For many centuries, our society has relied upon juries for consideration of difficult cases. We have recognized for hundreds of years that a jury's deliberations, discussions, and votes should remain their private affair as long as they wish it. Therefore, the law gives you a unique privilege not to speak about the jury's work. Although you are at liberty to speak with anyone about your deliberations, you are also at liberty to refuse to speak to anyone. A request to discuss either your verdict or your deliberations may come from those who are simply curious, from those who might seek to find fault with you, from the media, from attorneys, or elsewhere.
Okay, so one of my videos has uploaded, so I'm going to switch to that. One of the videos about what we filmed, the Georgia Kappaman interview. So give me a second, I'll show it to you guys, okay? This is, I filmed it without a tripod, so it's not going to be the best quality. I haven't edited yet. I didn't do any editing yet, so it will be raw. Here we go.
About this. So before we ask you the question,
Nobody's gonna do that.
what's it like in this moment? What was it like to have this defendant be found?
I think I just feel kind of honored to be able to deliver this win for the Markels. You know, we've heard so much about a win for the Adelsons, and everything that was lost in those efforts. So it's just been really cool to be a part of this win.
During one of the pre-trials, you said these trials that have become my life. It's a lot of trials at this point. Talk about what happens when you're a prosecutor and you have to continue to follow cases like this.
Well, I mean, I do have other cases. People don't know that. There are other cases. And I hear about all of them, but obviously this has become sort of part of my DNA after investing so much blood, sweat, and tears into this case and getting justice. So yeah, it's been an epic battle.
Was this one tougher than Charlie's trial?
I don't know. I mean, I'm older, so I think it is. I think everyone's tougher than the last. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, more time passes and there's more stuff. There's more phones. There's more records. There's more emails. So it's a lot to organize, and it's a lot of little pieces to try to put together and try to create something cognizable that a jury can follow and get their head around.
Georgia, opening statements right out of the gate, Jackie Fulford appropriated Professor Markel's nickname, calling him Danny. A lot of people were upset about that. Did that bother you?
Not as much as it bothered some other folks. I understood what she was trying to do. It was not the classiest move, and I think she kind of realized that and seemed to correct that over the course of the trial. But yeah, probably not a great move.
And what about the amount of deliberations? It's roughly the same as Charlie, maybe a few minutes more, but not much. That surprised you because some people were predicting a longer deliberation.
A little bit. I actually lost. I thought it would be slightly shorter, but I was being pretty ambitious. But yeah, it wouldn't have surprised me if it had been more difficult for them because it was a large puzzle that kind of had to be put together. But I guess they got what they needed and they knew what they had to do.
Were you surprised? Sorry, go ahead.
You are asking.
Oh, my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
I have a different question. Were you surprised by the defense strategy of throwing Wendy and Charlie under the bus? And was the adoptive admissions ruling something that you pre-planned or something that you all came up with at the last moment?
We had a few incarnations of how to deal with the fact that she had adopted Charlie's really ridiculous story previously. We didn't want her to be able to distance herself from that and create a new, better defense, which she did seem to kind of try to be doing. So we did want to try to shove that on her and then, try to explain that to the jury. Okay, here's this whole other defense that she already adopted, and it's complicated and it has all its pushback that goes with it. So it did feel like a difficult minefield to wade through to be able to explain all that to the jury, but we wanted to make sure they understood that, hey, she's already committed to this defense that's a loser, and now she's trying to switch it up and go to this whole other place, and you got to pick a lane. It can't be both. So I think that's kind of what we were trying to do, so hopefully we were successful.
And it sounded like the new investigation developed a lot of crazy evidence, including y'all were planning to use some phone calls that you were not able to use at the trial. Is the sealing of this evidence going to be unsealed once now that Donna has been convicted, or do you know?
I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, I don't know.
And you cannot still comment, I guess,
I
about
think
the
not,
details.
since it's sealed, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Right,
it's
no
less
comment
sexy
about-
than you imagine it to be, but I don't think I should comment on it since
Okay.
it's sealed by the court.
How did you feel when you found out that Donna was not going to be testifying? Something tells me you were probably salivating at the idea of
I don't know about
cross-examining for over the last
salivating.
11 years.
Yeah, it's not like I was gonna wow you guys with some amazing new stuff or anything,
Uh-huh.
but I did put tons of prepreparation into that, so I was a little bit like sad when I took my binder that had 110 tabs and packed it away. So yeah, I was a little surprised. She seems like somebody that would want to tell her story, but it gets trickier and trickier when all these stories are out there, and she would have had to navigate a lot of stuff to get up there. So I do understand why she made the decision she did, and I think it was a smart one, but I was kind of expecting her to testify.
What was the new evidence that you thought in this trial might have made a difference that when you came across that you introduced?
I think the fleeing to Vietnam didn't hurt, especially since she denied it. She could have just said, yeah, I went to Vietnam. I didn't want to get arrested.
What about
But she didn't do that. She oversold, so
The
that was
VIN
helpful.
number and the planner. Like,
Yes.
Can you talk about that? Like, how did you guys find that? Was it an aha moment?
Yeah, kind of dumb luck. I mean, that thing is so dense and there's a bunch of them. So we've just been sort of perusing them, and yeah, somebody just stumbled upon it and had an aha moment.
And how,
Rob Adelson's testimony, how key was that?
I think it was important, didn't you? I mean, I thought he was so genuine, and what a guy to be able to do that. I mean, what a terrible situation for him to be put in, and to be able to rise above that and do the right thing. It's really impressive.
Did you all wait for this trial to put him on? Why did he not testify previously?
I just didn't want to do it to him unless I felt like it was absolutely necessary, and I really felt like we needed him in this one.
Georgia, does Wendy have reason to be worried tonight?
You said that word. That's a bad word.
A bad word. Let me ask you
No,
another
no,
question.
Worried's a bad word.
Well, last time.
Should we say stay tuned? Do we need to stay tuned?
Stay
I mean,
tuned.
you can stay tuned.
One other question for me. I mean, your father played football. I understand. I went to my first Knowles game, and I take all the credit
Oh,
for
it's a
Bama
great
win.
one.
Yeah.
Lucky you.
I take all the credit for
Go
that.
Knowles.
And I found out maybe through the grapevine that someone else in your family is a professional female golfer or that you're close to. About that. Maybe not, but do you get to,
Sounds cool.
do you think you get that competitive spirit from from dad, from your family?
Yes, I think both sides of my family are extremely competitive, and if you came to game night, you would see some pieces being thrown around the room.
The most important question, do you have a fifth red suit?
I don't know. I'll work on that. I'll work on that.
Number 5.
Yeah, I'll work on that for you.
Georgia, can I ask you about Charlie Adelson? Last year you were going, it seemed like the state was going to call him, and ultimately this time around, no one called him to the stand. Why?
Because we didn't want to tangle with him unless we had to, and we felt like we were able to successfully get out the story that he told at his trial and marry Donna to it as much as we needed to without having to tangle with him.
If I'm not mistaken, this was the first trial where you guys were able to access WhatsApp messages. Was there a new am I right about that? Was there a new technological
I can't
advance?
remember if we had any WhatsApp messages last time, but they are encrypted, so you really do have to get them off the device itself. So we were able to retrieve some threads.
And was that
from
related to
Donna's
getting
device.
from Donna's device? Yeah.
Was your all's case more polished? The demonstratives seem to be up a notch from before.
Yes,
Yeah,
because
times
I
two.
didn't make them. I only directed. I did get some wonderful volunteer help. So I don't know if she wants a shout out or not, but.
Were there other things that were new and improved? Some of the witnesses even seem to be testifying a little smoother than before.
I don't know. Did they? I don't know.
It's a blur.
If the trial had
Yeah,
gone
it's
forward,
all one long
yeah,
day.
if the trial had gone forward a year ago, you wouldn't have all the evidence from the new investigation. How significant was to have that note from Drina Bernhardt?
Oh, man, I thought it was great. I thought it was,
Yes.
when she showed up with that, it was like Christmas Day.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, actually. I'm not gonna lie, to just talk right there to Georgia Kappelman and get her answers. I was the closest, I guess, to her right there, right next to her. That was pretty cool. I have actually I did a full interview with Georgia about the Samurai Fresh case in her office. So I have that interview somewhere on the channel. Of course, there are thousands of videos on my channel, so you may never have seen it. But it was an amazing interview about trial strategy and different issues regarding the Samurai Fresh murder. So if you're interested in Georgia, you like her, you might want to check that out. I do want to say thanks for all the people who are donating, because we did incur a lot of costs for this trial, and the views were pretty poor because of the huge amount of competition. So I do appreciate that very much. I do want to say something that it looks like the defense totally dropped the ball, 100%, because I'm looking at her calendar, Donna Adelson's calendar, for July 18, 2014, day of the shooting, and July 19, 2014, Saturday, on the day after the shooting, the day that Markel died, and Donna and/or Harvey had scheduled tennis, court 2, at 11:30 to 12:30 p.m. So obviously they were not guilty. Sorry. But I'm in a jovial mood, I guess, in a sense, because I think that the jury got the right result. And I do want to share again the fact that I have the entire 2014 calendar. This is a treasure trove that I'm not sure is worthy to go through now that Donna has been convicted. Except, of course, too many, there hasn't been full justice yet, quite yet. So maybe a deep dive into this calendar is in order. What do y'all think? Huh? Should we Should we do a deep dive and see all the exculpatory evidence that the defense team missed and or the inculpatory evidence that the prosecution missed? Because one thing I was surprised about, where is that page? Here's the garage door. Here's the page for the garage door. Yeah, there we go. Here's that page. You want to see? Let me. Oh, I was showing George's interview. I don't know why I interrupted. But this is the page that had the gold for the prosecution. The gold is right here. The gold is right there. This is the gold. And it says 08 Accord. And of course, they blocked out for some reason now something that they published at the trial, which is the tag number for Dan Markel's car. And the strange thing that I didn't see Georgia use at all is the entry right above it. The 07 Odyssey. That is a Honda Odyssey. 07 Odyssey must have been Wendy Adelson's vehicle. And next to it, there is no tag number. So why didn't she bring that up? I didn't get that part. Why didn't she bring that up? I would have, if it was me. I would say, she needs the tag number for her daughter's ex-husband, but she doesn't need it for her own daughter? Weird. Or maybe she didn't want to point out the fact that she also had Wendy's vehicle information above. But again, the absence of the tag number, I think, was significant to me. So we may find treasures in this calendar. Question is, who has the time to go through all of it? But I do have it now. I do have it. All right, let's finish watching. Oh, there was a question about who was spared from testifying at prior trials. That had to do with Robert Adelson. That she didn't want to put him through the difficulties of testifying against family members until it was really necessary. So she felt that it was really necessary to put him on the stand in this trial. Okay, so that's me in Georgia. Big fan of Georgia here.
It's a bar.
If the trial had gone forward,
yeah,
if the trial had gone forward a year ago, you wouldn't have all the evidence from the new investigation. How significant was to have that note from Drina Bernhardt?
I thought it was great. I thought it was,
Yes.
when she showed up with that, it was like Christmas Day.
Yeah.
It felt like this trial, you did mention Wendy's name more. Was that just because of who the defendant was, or is there a strategy behind more evidence against Wendy coming out?
I think it was because of who the defendant was and how important the motive was to establish, which largely arose from the communications between Donna and Wendy. So Wendy ended up more in the mix.
You say a little bit about the boys. I can feel the emotion. It seemed like it really resonated with the jury when you talked about.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, there's no justice for them, and I haven't done them any favors today, and I lose sleep over that fact. That's tough. I know that. Yeah, the family's just been totally destroyed, and I hate that. And sometimes it feels a little bit like being a part of it, So, yeah, I wish them nothing but the best, and I hope they can reconnect with their paternal relatives and get past this. Yep.
Georgia needs to go to
Thank
sleep
you, guys.
now. Georgia hasn't slept in quite a while.
Congratulations to
Y'all
all
have
of
a
you.
good night.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so now, I know
Okay, let me see if there's anything else that uploaded from there. Otherwise, we can go and watch the impact statements from the Markels while I do some work. So let me see. Let me go back and look at my channel B ML Justice Network. See what else uploaded. 1 second. The other one's still uploading, 93%. So we'll have to wait a few minutes. Why only 2 videos though? I thought I uploaded more. That's strange. So All right. Not ready yet. Doesn't look like it's ready. Okay, let's go back to watch the victim impact statements. Okay.
It will be up to you to decide whether to preserve your privacy as a juror. With that being said, I want to extend my thanks on behalf of the entire Second Circuit for your service in this matter. You are discharged. Have a good evening. As to the jury's verdict, with the jury having found the defendant guilty of the 3 charges of the indictment, is the defense asking for a pre-sentence report on counts 2 and 3. As to count 1, the penalty is statutory, and essentially there is no modification for it.
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, pre-sentence investigation and report is ordered by the court as to counts 2 and 3. As to count 1, is there any reason why we cannot proceed to sentencing on this matter?
Your Honor, we would request an opportunity to ensure that our client is okay before we proceed to sentencing. It's my understanding that Charlie Adelson wasn't sentenced right away. We're asking for the same courtesy.
Very well. The court then will set a separate sentencing date.
May I inquire whether the family members that are present would like to give victim impact now or at the future date?
Go ahead.
I thought it was great that the victim impact statements from the Markels were given in person. Previous times they had to do it from Canada. It was awesome that the judge allowed them to do it tonight while they're still here. So that was actually great. Good job by the prosecutor to ask for that, and grateful that that was done today.
We're on 2 victim impact statements this evening.
It's fine. Right there in front of the lectern.
Watch yourself.
If you please can identify yourself for the record.
Yes, my name is Ruth Mark. Sorry?
I'm worried you're gonna trip. Just
Okay, I already did. My name is Ruth Markel.
You may give your impact statement, ma'am.
Thank you, Judge Everett. To the Honorable Judge Everett, my name is Ruth Markel. I am the mother of the late Dan Markel. I stand before you today to express the profound sadness and grief that Dan's family and I have endured since his tragic murder. We have lost a treasure. My son Dan's life was cut tragically short at 41 years old. For 11 years, we have been forced to a life filled with unimaginable pain and heartbreak. Dan's father, Phil, and his sister, Shelley, share in this unending sorrow. Dan was a devoted father, brother, and son. Dan's life was marked by his devotion to family, education, and community. He was a loving, caring, and inspiring person. His academic journey included studying politics and philosophy at Harvard University, earning a master's degree later in political theory from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and Emmanuel College in Cambridge, and later going back to Harvard to get a law degree. Dan was a prolific scholar and did start, co-founded the influential Prof's blog. His energy, drive, and sociability greatly enriched the FSU College of Law. Dan's life was filled with passion, music, dance, sports, travel, and people. But of all my son's accomplishments, however, I am most proud of the devoted father Danny was to his two sons, Benjamin and Lincoln. Dan was present, loving, and supportive, always putting his children's well-being first. He regularly attended the boys' daycares, reading with them. His office was filled with their drawings, and his home, his living room, filled with their toys. Dan was the boys' hero, and they have been forced to grow up without a father. Dan's murder has shattered our family and caused deep, permanent pain. This was a particularly senseless crime, and the murder was particularly insensible. It was not revenge. Dan was a law-abiding and respectful citizen, an active father, and a living son. His life was devoted to teaching and helping others. The pain and suffering of Dan's murder goes well beyond other families too. That is why I wrote the book, The Unveiling, a mother's reflection on murder, grief, and trial life. In my unrelenting grief, I turned to advocacy to feel purpose and to help others with these tragic losses. I have found meaning and comfort to connect with others who want to serve justice. To all the community of journalists, TV programs, podcasters, Tallahassee communities, and the allies who have put their hearts in keeping Danny's story alive, we are full of thanks. To law enforcement and prosecutors, our gratitude is beyond for their dedicated, careful perseverance in seeking justice for Danny and our family. If Tallahassee is known for football, Tallahassee should be known for the prosecution and for law enforcement. They have done an outstanding job. These extraordinary efforts underscore the brutal truth of our family's story. Danny's murder was orchestrated by his former mother-in-law, Donna Adelson, and other co-conspirators, and is a crime of cruelty. It is a murder of grief, a murder of selfishly prioritizing one's own desires over what is just or right. And at its core, this was a murder of convenience, so that one grandmother could live closer to her grandchildren. She killed their father and ripped the children from the other grandparents' lives. Donna Adelson's crimes against Dan began long before his murder. She belittled Dan in front of his children. She spread lies about him and contributed to a brutal separation between Dan and Wendy. She rented the house, and Dan came home and he found that Wendy and the boys were gone with most of their belongings. He called this devastation Pearl Harbor. Donna's eagerness for Wendy to divorce Dan and to relocate to South Florida led her to increasingly devise desperate schemes. Despite these efforts, the court ruled that Wendy could not move the boys away from their loving father. Failing to achieve her goal through legal means, Donna finally resorted to orchestrating Dan's murder. She plotted, planned, and paid for his murder. Donna's crimes led to further devastation. Her middle son, Charlie, was convicted and sentenced to a life in prison for his role in facilitating Danny's murder for hire. Can you imagine a mother involving a son to complete a murder? Donna's eldest son, Rob, an honest and decent man, is estranged from the family. And her younger child, Wendy, has decided once again to relocate to another state. Her actions and those of her co-conspirators have caused children to lose their parents. Catherine McManus, Freda Garcia, and Charlie Adelson, also convicted, are all convicted for life and have lost access to their children. Prior to her arrest, Donna's recorded phone calls with Charlie reveal their lack of a moral compass or capacity for self-reflection. She blames external forces for her family's curse. They're outside of her, but she is the curse, and lashes out angrily at witnesses who took the brave step to testify. Her modus operandi has always been to run from Tallahassee and then to try to flee to Vietnam. For our family, there is no such prospect for escape. Danny's absence, and that leaves a hole at the center of our lives, no matter where we go. Yet Dan's murder was not enough for Donna. His death was not enough. Danny had to be fully erased from his beloved sons. The boy's last name was ever changed, an extraordinary decision to excise the Markel name from Phil's only grandsons who shared his last name. And after the first arrests were made, Donna didn't allow the Markel family to have access for over 6 years. It was only when there was a phenomenal Tallahassee advocacy group that passed the Markel Act. The passage of this bill was immediately followed by our first invitation to see the boys after the arrest. The door only cracked open. Despite these efforts, we remain excluded from the boys' lives. We were not at their bar mitzvahs or graduations. We have extremely highly choreographed visits and communications. We only wait for the day that Benjamin and Lincoln will visit their father and his grave, and his father's history, and his grave in Toronto. We want nothing more. The facts of Danny's murder, are difficult to swallow. The experiences Phil, Shelley, and I have been forced to suffer are profound as homicide survivors and victims of the criminal system. The lives of Danny's 2 sons, our grandchildren, were forever turned upside down by this crime. Benjamin and Lincoln were only preschoolers when their father was murdered, and now they are forced to confront and try to understand the unthinkable crimes of murder and the Adelsons' involvement. Our lives will never return to normal. For those who loved Danny and for those who Danny loved, there is no escape from the wicked effects of what Donna Adelson set in motion, carried out, and paid for, and for many years enjoyed the aftermath of. Donna Adelson has caused immense devastation and an untimely, undeserved murder through her actions. While no trial or verdict can ever heal the profound wounds caused by Dan's murder, justice must be served. I respectfully ask the court to impose the maximum sentence on Donna Adelson. Her lack of cooperation and remorse throughout the case demands justice, the justice that Dan's life and memory fully deserve. We are immensely grateful to the court for its careful and compassionate deliberation. Respectively, Ruth Markel.
Thank you, Ms. Markel. Are there any other victim impact statements this evening?
One more.
If you please could tell us your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Phil Markel. I'm Danny's father. Judge Everett, I appreciate the opportunity to speak about the impact of Donna Adelson's actions on my families and the families of so many others. While this victim impact statement is addressed to you, Your Honor, it is also intended for the Adelson family, Harvey, Charlie, Wendy, and particularly Donna. I would like them to understand and reflect on the deep and irreparable damage they have caused. The pain that they have caused my family is obvious and permanent, but they have also caused lifelong harm to their own immediate family and so many other families and children around. Donna's selfishness, cruelty, and complete disrespect for human life, along with that of her co-conspirators, have left families forever broken. Louis Rivera, his children have no father. Catherine Magbanoa and Sigfredo Garcia, their children have no parents. Charlie Adelson, his son, Roman, has no father. Rob Adelson and his wife and their 2 children have lost their uncle and grandparents. Shelley and Ian, my daughter, their 3 children, my grandchildren, are left without an uncle and are separated from their cousins. Of course, their heinous and callous actions have left me, Ruth, and Shelley without our Danny, and Ben and Lincoln without their father. For anyone to commit such a cold-blooded, unprovoked act of murder is horrific. For Donna, someone who claims to care so much about Ben and Lincoln, her sun shines. Her actions are beyond comprehension. She has harmed forever the people she claims to have loved. In the Jewish custom, we have an expression to always wish others to live to 120 years of age. For Donna, I wish her to live to 120, alone in her jail cell. I wish that every day of her remaining days, she thinks about the harm she has caused to so many, especially those 2 boys she claims to have loved so much. For these reasons, Your Honor, I ask the court sentence Donna Adelson to the maximum possible sentence. And my only short question to Donna, was it worth it? Respectfully, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Markel. Are there any other matters that the court needs to address this evening, Ms. Koppelman?
No, Your Honor.
With the PSI being ordered, the court will pronounce the sentence as to counts 2 and 3 after it's been completed. The parties have had an opportunity to review the pre-sentence investigation report and make any objections if they believe they need to. As to the 3 counts that the jury has found the defendant guilty of, I will adjudicate her guilty at this time, but the sentence will be pronounced as to the 3 counts at a later date. She is remanded for sentencing at this time. Lieutenant Henry, please notify the commander at the jail that the appropriate screening needs to take place to ensure that the defendant is in an area where she is not subject to any self-harm. For a case management date coming up, what would the parties request?
Ms. Dugan's October court date, Your Honor.
Believe that is 10/14. Is that correct, Ms. Dugan?
Yes, sir.
October 14th for case management at 2:30 p.m. That will be in the normal courtroom 3B. Patricia, if you can make sure that the notice goes to DOC so they are aware that the PSI needs to be completed as soon as possible. Thank you. We are in recess at this time. We will reconvene on October 14th. Have a good evening, everyone.
Okay, so let me talk a little bit about the calendar. All right, so let's talk about the Donna Adelson 2014 calendar. We are the only ones to have a copy, at least an official copy. So a few things about it. First of all, it doesn't look like Dan Roshbaum, I'm assuming, then Rashbaum apparently turned it over, thinking that it was good for Donna, I would assume. But he turned it over to the prosecutors. I got a redacted copy, so they charged me because they had to do redactions. And I'm looking at the document, and I'm already finding stuff that would be useful. Just from an initial look. So let me give you a little bit of background about Donna and her calendars. She is a devoted planner, so she writes stuff ahead of time. So if there are entries on May 1st, for example, Thursday, May 1st, 2014, it doesn't mean these are entries that she wrote that day, of course. Many of them are entries that she wrote discussing what she's supposed to do on that date, what's scheduled on that date. So let's take a look at, hi Rochelle, nice to see you. Let's take a look at some of the things I found just from a quick look. This is my first look at this document that I paid for today. I received it today. I printed for the first time tonight as we were doing this video. And I'm just, as we were watching the impact statements from Phil and Ruth, which I watched in person and I paid attention to in person, so I didn't have to pay attention right now, I started looking at the calendar. So I could share it on the screen, but I have to email it. I'm just going to tell you what I found. I'll show you. Puzzling stuff, for example, for Thursday, May 1st and Saturday, May 3rd, twice. The question is highlighted here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I highlighted the question because I remember something from the 2023 calendar that was puzzling. Something about, I think it was Porsche wheels. And now here are the questions twice. Decide what to pay for Ferrari, due in July. Again, decide what to pay in Ferrari, due in July. Those two entries are just 2 days apart. One is on May, 3 days apart. One is on, no, two. One is on May 1st, and then again on May 3rd. Weird. Nothing huge about that, but weird. What Ferrari? Is that code for decide what to pay for the murder? Maybe. All right. Then on very useful information I found. On May 5th, there's a highlighted entry right here at the bottom. May 5th at the bottom. On May 5th, there are indications. This is the first one, and there are several more indications of a note to Charlie for him to install cameras at the office. And if you all remember, I think that there was an argument from Dan Rashbaum and the defense that after the extortion is when Charles became scared and started to put cameras around. And then it turned out that it wasn't after the extortion. It was done before. Now, I remember that in that case, the state had been able to find some evidence that they were planning to do that before. But here is pretty obvious. It's written on the document. Cameras for office. I don't know if you guys can read it right there. Cameras for office says Charlie's name. List of things for Charlie. Number 2 is cameras for office. Then on May the 7th is when they plan to move to the continuum. So there's a lot of notes about the continuum, and it looks like Charlie actually help pay for the lease to on the continuum. That's the luxury apartments by the beach. This is really good. Again, we're missing a lot of dates, but I looked at May 11. I'm like, Donna Adelson didn't care about the litigation post-divorce. She didn't even get the documents, right? That's what they're arguing in this trial, right? All right, let's see. Oh, and the expert, Linda Bailey. No, I don't think she was ever deposed. Okay. Well, look what we found. Okay, this is not obviously about, she was deposed in 2013, but look what I found on Thursday, May 8th. And why am I looking at these dates, by the way? Because remember, my theory has been for years that the motive for the murder included canceling Wendy's deposition. This whole thing about the theme that ran in the Adelson family, that Dan Markel was depoting, taking depositions of Wendy to death. So what do we find? Lo and behold, for Thursday, May 8th, right there. Okay, what do we see? Depositions all day for Wendy. Of course, that doesn't mean it had to be in her case, but I'm going to say it's 99.99% that it had to be in that case. And that's easy to verify, because anytime that you set up a deposition, let's say in a divorce case, you got to prepare a notice and you got to share it with opposing counsel. Like, if Dan Markel was going to take her deposition on that day, his attorney would have done a notice of deposition, would have served it by email. They don't have to file it. He would serve it by email to opposing counsel, notice the deposition, so that she would know, here's the deposition. So yeah, Wendy was supposed to be deposed on May 8th, and I'm assuming also Dan Markel were. Maybe both of them were going to be deposed, because it says depositions plural. So there we go. Proof in the calendar that this was being pretty contentious, so contentious that they were going to be questioning Wendy under oath. And that got canceled. Why? Because of the murder. So soon we're going to see the video from Kate. She also recorded the interviews. Let me see if they upload it. Yeah, here we go. I think we got one. Show second take of interview of Georgia. Let's go there. There we go. Let me share the screen. We can watch it together.
When you go home tomorrow?
Just changed my flight. I had a Sunday at 5 a.m. flight back here.
Nobody's gonna do that.
What's it like in this moment? What was it like to have this defendant be found?
I think I just feel kind of honored to be able to deliver this win for the Markels. Now we've heard so much about.
It looks like somebody very rudely stepped in front of Kate and covered her view. She told me that she was very pissed about it. So I'm going to see who that is, who butted in front of her tripod.
Win for the Adelsons, and everything that was lost in those efforts. So it's just been really cool to be a part of this win.
During one of the pre-trials, you said these trials that have become my life. It's a lot of trials at this point. Talk about what happens when you're a prosecutor and you have to continue to follow cases like this one.
Well, I mean, I do have other cases. People don't know that. There are other cases in the house. And I care about, all of them, but obviously this has become sort of part of my DNA after investing so much blood, sweat, and tears into this case and getting justice. So yeah, it's been an epic battle.
Was this one tougher than Charlie's trial?
I don't know. I mean, I'm older, so I think it is. I think everyone is tougher than the last. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, more time passes and there's more stuff. There's more phones. There's more records. There's more emails. So it's a lot to organize, and it's a lot of little pieces to try to put together and try to create something cognizable that a jury can follow and get their head around.
In Georgia, opening statements right out of the gate, Jackie Fulford appropriated Professor Markel's nickname, calling him Danny. A lot of people were upset about that. Did that bother you?
Not as much as it bothered some other folks. I understood what she was trying to do. It was not the classiest move, and I think she kind of realized that and seemed to correct that over the course of the trial. But yeah, probably not a great move.
And what about the amount of deliberations? It's roughly the same as Charlie, maybe a few minutes more, but not much. That surprised you because some people were predicting a longer deliberation period.
A little bit. I actually lost. I thought it would be slightly shorter, but I was being pretty ambitious. But yeah, it wouldn't have surprised me if it had been more difficult for them because it was a large puzzle that kind of had to be put together. But I guess they got what they needed and they did what they had to do.
Will this be the last prosecution?
You are asking a question. Why are you that guy?
Were you surprised by the defense strategy of throwing Wendy and Charlie under the bus? And was the adoptive admissions ruling something that you pre-planned or something that you all came up with at the last moment?
We had a few incarnations of how to deal with the fact that she had adopted Charlie's really ridiculous story previously. We didn't want her to be able to distance herself from that and create a new, better defense, which she did seem to kind of try to be doing. So we did want to try to shove that on her and then try to explain that to the jury. Okay, here's this whole other defense that she already adopted, and it's complicated, and it has all its pushback that goes with it. So it did feel like a difficult minefield to wade through to be able to explain all that to the jury, but we wanted to make sure they understood that, hey, she's already committed to this defense that's a loser, and now she's trying to switch it up and go to this whole other place, and we got to pick a lane, it can't be both. So I think that's kind of what we were trying to do, so hopefully we were successful.
And it sounded like the new investigation developed a lot of crazy evidence, including y'all were planning to use some phone calls that you were not able to use at the trial. Is the sealing of this evidence going to be unsealed now that Donna has been convicted, or do you know?
I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, I don't know.
And you cannot still comment, I guess, about
I
the
think not.
details.
Right. Yes, it's less sexy than you imagine it to be, but I don't think I should comment on it since it's sealed by the court.
How did you feel when you found out that Donna was not going to be testifying? Something tells me you were probably salivating at the idea of cross-examining her over the last 11 years.
Yeah, it's not like I was gonna wow you guys with some amazing new stuff or anything, but I did put tons of preparation into that. So I was a little bit like sad when I took my binder that had 110 tabs and packed it away. So yeah, I was a little surprised. She seems like somebody that would want to tell her story, but it's trickier and trickier when all these stories are out there, and she would have to navigate a lot of stuff to get up there. So I do understand why she made the decision she did, and I think it was a smart one, but I was kind of expecting her to testify.
What was the new evidence that you thought in this trial might have made a difference that when you came across that you introduced?
I think the fleeing to Vietnam didn't hurt, especially since she denied it. She could have just said, yeah, I went to Vietnam. I didn't want to get arrested. But she didn't do that. She oversold.
The VIN number and the planner. Like,
yes.
Can you talk about that? Like, how did you guys find that? Was it an aha moment?
Yeah, kind of dumb luck. I mean, that thing is so dense, and there's a bunch of them. So we've just been sort of perusing them, and somebody just stumbled upon it and had an aha moment.
Without Rob Adelson's testimony, how key was that?
I think it was important, didn't you? I mean, I thought he was so genuine, and what a guy to be able to do that. You know, I mean, what a terrible situation for him to be put in, and to be able to rise above that and do the right thing. It's really impressive.
Did you all wait for this trial to put him on? Why did he not testify previously?
I just didn't want to do it to him unless I felt like it was absolutely necessary, and I really felt like we needed him in this one.
George, does Wendy have reason to be worried tonight?
You said that word. That's a bad word.
A bad word. Let me ask you another question.
Worried is a bad word.
Well, last time.
Should we say stay tuned? Do we need to stay tuned?
Stay
I mean, you can stay tuned.
One other question for me. I mean, your father played football. I understand. It was my first Knowles game, and I take all the credit for
Oh,
the
it's a
Bama
great
win.
one.
Yeah.
Lucky you.
I take all the credit
Go
for that.
Knowles.
And I found out maybe through the grapevine that someone else in your family is a professional female golfer or that you're close to. I don't know if I'm right about that. Maybe not, but do you get the
Sounds cool.
Do you think you get that competitive spirit from from your dad, from your family?
Yes, I think both sides of my family are extremely competitive, and if you came to game night, you would see some pieces being thrown around the room. And
The most important question, do you have a fifth red suit?
I don't know. I'll work on that. I'll work on that.
Number 5, number 5.
Chapter 5.
It's chapter
Attorney
5.
Gibson, last year you were going, it seemed like the state was going to call him, but ultimately this time around, no one called him to the stand. Why?
Because we didn't want to tangle with him unless we had to, and we felt like we were able to successfully get out the story that he told at his trial and marry Donna to it as much as we needed to without having to tangle with him.
If I'm not mistaken, this was the first trial where you guys were able to access WhatsApp messages. Was there a new am I right about that? Was there a new technological advance?
I don't remember if we had any WhatsApp messages last time, but they are encrypted, so you really do have to get them off the device itself. So we were able to retrieve some threads.
And was that related to getting from Donna's device? Yeah.
Was your all's case more polished? Does the demonstratives seem to be up a notch from before?
Yes,
I'm just
because
trying to-
I didn't make them. I only directed. I did get some wonderful volunteer help. So I don't know if she wants to shout it or not, but.
Were there other things that were new and improved? Some of the witnesses even seem to be testifying a little smoother than before.
I don't know. Or did they? I don't know.
It's a blur.
If the trial
Yeah,
had come
it's all
forward,
one long day.
if the trial had come forward a year ago, you wouldn't have all the evidence from the new investigation. How significant was to have that note from Drina Bernhardt?
I thought it was great. I thought it was, when she showed up with that, it was like Christmas Day.
They did a good job.
It felt like this trial, you did mention Wendy's name more. Was that just because of who the defendant was, or is there a strategy behind more evidence against Wendy coming out?
I think it was because of who the defendant was and how important the motive was to establish, which largely arose from the communications between Donna and Wendy. So, yeah, Wendy ended up more in the mix.
Can you say a little bit about the boys? I can feel the emotion. It seemed like it really resonated with the jury
Those
when you talked
boys.
about.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Yeah, there's no justice for them, and I haven't done them any favors today, and I lose sleep over that fact. It's tough. I know that, yeah, the family's just been totally destroyed, and I hate that, and sometimes it feels a little bit like being a part of it, so, yeah. I wish them nothing but the best, and I hope they can reconnect with their paternal relatives and get past this. Yep.
Georgia needs to go to sleep
Guys.
now. Georgia hasn't slept in quite a while. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay. So I found some stuff that maybe is a little helpful to Wendy. I mean, there are several entries in the calendar right after Kristen Adamson withdrew from the case of her looking for an attorney. Apparently, they were talking to Jimmy Jenkins, who became her new lawyer right away. They had a meeting with him. The first one was on May. What was it? I saw it. First one that I see is on May 12th, Monday, May 12th. So It's not like they took forever, but of course, again, those kind of things are like, first of all, there was no guarantee that the murder was going to work, right? No guarantee of that. And even if Wendy knew about the plan, they would want to look like they're acting as normal. So it would be probably, they would think, oh, because this is a very pre-planned murder, yeah, if we're looking for a lawyer, we'll look better. So it's like, obviously, just difficult to figure out the truth there. And I really wish that, because Kristen Adamson was in questioned so extensively on the direct examination, I was really hoping that on cross there would be more questions about the whole thing. Why did she withdraw and all of that? I'm actually going to rewatch that cross. I hope I didn't miss something that happened there. So this calendar is going to be interesting to look at, and it's going to take a lot of time. It's huge. And if you heard the Georgia talk right there, what she said was that somebody was perusing through this and stumbled upon that and had an aha moment. And we had several aha moments when we did the review of the 2023 calendar. So we may have new ones that nobody argued before if we ever do undertake this review of this full calendar of Donna's 2014 year. So there may be some more hidden gems that haven't been explored yet at trial. So I do have a lot of work to do, and it's already 12:43. And tomorrow, my plan is to do a lot of things, including possibly, hopefully, play tennis with fantasy fiction. And I have not slept much at all this week, so I think it's time for me to wrap this up. And I think I'm going to wrap up also. I'm not going to do any other work tonight. No, I should, of course, do the... Let me see. Do I have the interview of the Markels at least up so I can show you guys that? Yeah, I do. So let's watch them. There we go. And thank you so much for everyone who has donated. I apologize if I did not give you a specific thank you or said something. I'm truly grateful to everyone for your donations and help without the very expensive cost for this trial. So thank you so much. So Harvey didn't want to talk. There's Tamara. Or Tamara.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're not following me, we're making it good right now. Part of the media or Markel family, what you do.
Can't believe that he spread these rumors that would help Donna on the eve of the trial, and there he is talking to the Markels. So weird.
First of all, do you want us here or do you want us just to move over? First of all, I just want to say it's been 11 hard years. And I have a lot of people to thank with the prosecution, the law enforcement. They've hung in with us from day one. And like I said, the Tallahassee is known for football. I think it's better known for prosecution and law enforcement skills and high standards of delivery of an excellent, excellent practice. Tonight, we have a lot of people to be grateful for. I've often said my life is full of two words, trauma and gifts. Tonight, I'll talk about, I said the trauma inside. The loss of Danny Markel is a great loss for all of us. And the gifts are all the people who've supported us, our allies from FSU University, the Tallahassee community, and all of you in the media, of which we've had tremendous support. Social media, podcasters, print, and all other aspects of helping us produce and deliver this very important communication. So thank you. We are grateful.
Ruth, you mentioned the Markel Act in your comments, and I know so many people are wondering, will the Markel family be able to enjoy the protections of the Markel Act that is named for Dan?
Well, the Markel Act actually has, it's specific to, just to answer the question very specifically, it's part of having a civil or a criminal offense against the spouse of a person who has been deceased. We have had access because of the Markel Act. So as it was passed, it opened up. Wendy had invited us to the bar mitzvahs. We had a little bit of an opportunity to have communications in some cases, but they're highly choreographed. It's not a natural process. We're looking for when we can communicate by email, by a phone. We have everything is done still through Wendy's devices, let's call it, and timeframes. So we're looking for a more natural opportunity.
Ms. Markel, do you believe that everyone who participated in this crime has been held accountable?
I'll let other people in my family talk about that.
Okay.
Well, first of all, just one little side thing. We were originally invited to the first bar mitzvah, and then we were disinvited from it. So just to clarify. My comments. First of all, I'm very, very grateful to the jury. They were very attentive. I watched them carefully. They listened. They obviously analyzed and came to a just decision. We're grateful to the judge for his patience and his guidance and that everybody followed the law, etc. We're grateful to all of you guys here. I can't begin to tell you. I always, to me, journalists were never, they're into just post stuff in the papers, TV or whatever, but you guys have really, really, it's been 11 years. You've supported us. And because of you, this case never went cold. And I can't believe people stop me when I'm in Dillard's or I'm in the wine store or in a restaurant. My claim to fame, unfortunately, is I'm Dan's dad. But it's so heartwarming to see this community, the people, and because of you around the world, there aren't enough words to tell you how grateful we all are. This is, even though it's joyful or unhappy decision that's come out, it's still very, very difficult. And we still don't have the full access to the boys that we'd love to have. They're very, very controlled, very short, and very far and few between. And it's, we just want anybody and everybody who had anything to do with Dan's death brought to justice. And until that day happens, I will not be fully happy individual.
And Phil, one of the, I think it's safe to say, when the Star.
And so, by the way, so this was before we did an interview with Georgia Kappelman.
Witnesses in this trial was Rob Adelson. What was it like for you to watch him up there testifying for the government?
Rob Adelson and I have, we actually haven't seen each other for a long time, but we do communicate via text, telephone, etc. He is an incredible individual. How this guy happened to come out of this family is beyond my understanding.
I think we respect his bravery and his courage in doing what he did, and we really, will be very honored to see him and connect with him, but in particular, we really respect his courage.
And Phil or Shelley can answer this. Did this one feel different? You had the hitmen who were prosecuted, you had McDaniel, but now father to mother-in-law. There's a different kind of relationship between those two. To see her there getting found guilty, what was that like?
I have to think of how to answer that question. It's hard. Each one is very gratifying, obviously, and we're happy with the results. This one hurts, I think, a little more because of who it is. I made a very short little speech, but I think what I did differently this time is the harm to families, not just only ours, but to everybody involved in this mess. And so many children without parents, without uncles, aunts, cousins, etc. It's so hard to understand. She was an educated individual. She was a kindergarten teacher. Where did this come from? I don't know. I'm not smart enough to figure this out.
I was just gonna add that there is a certain satisfaction in this verdict, despite the fact that anyone going to jail is a hard thing to imagine, and obviously hard to, it's emotional, but I would say there's satisfaction in this verdict, and I would say that we're hopeful, really hopeful, that this will open the door for the future generations to, connect, for the cousins to connect, for, rebuilding a relationship with my nephews, their grandchildren, my children's cousins. This is, we hope that this will shed light. This will be the sort of element of truth that will be there for them to see. It'll be on the record for those kids to know in the future, and we would, welcome the opportunity to reconnect.
And Shelley, what do you think Dan would say today watching his parents up there giving such eloquent, amazing victim impact statements, particularly Phil's last question?
I think he'd be really proud. Danny was one to do presentations. He was the, really amazing writer in our family, and I think his parents, would have made him very proud.
One question, what were the thoughts that went through your mind as you saw the defense strategy develop to kind of embrace the evidence against the daughter and the son? A mother, in essence, throwing their kids under the bus and acting as a prosecutor for the defense attorneys and calling them Markel Danny and all the stuff that they tried to embrace the evidence and pretend that they care so much about what happened to Then Markel.
Maybe those are better questions for the state's attorney.
Yeah, but I think the defense had to do their job, and I think that we have really looked at all the sides of the story, and thank you again. Thank you
I'd say
all.
we're very lucky that the state's attorneys and their team did such an amazing job in all of that. So thank you, everybody.
Police, just everybody. We're really grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Safe travels.
Thank you.
Justice.
Guys, we're happy to talk to y'all. We would like to talk privately with the family for a minute, and then George will answer questions. I know that's what you're gonna want. Y'all want to come.
Is there a bigger spot we can all pick?
Yeah.
Like you all trying to find the bigger spot?
So it ended there with where am I? It ended there with me suggesting to everybody, hey, let's go find a bigger spot so everybody can have a place to film the conference for Georgia Cappleman. And then instead of listening to me, they all went to even a smaller spot. So then I just went around them and I went to that side wall, and eventually I ended up being super close to Georgia. So it worked out. But yes, Kate got blocked with a tripod twice. Not so bad in this first interview of the Markels, but then on the second one, she, poor lady, she almost didn't catch the Georgia conference. The first half, she was totally blocked, and then she like started to raise it, I guess, super high and move it around and got a little bit in. But luckily, I decided to film. So she was supposed to film. I was supposed to think of questions, but I decided, hey, I see that she's having a hard time there. There's so many people. I'm just going to film from this angle as well. So we now have two angles. All right, guys. Anyway, I think I need to get going. I will do, before I go home, I'm going to do an edited version of both of those two things, and maybe also of the verdict. And I'll publish that tonight. And then I'll go home. So thanks, everybody, for watching. Thank you so very much again for your donations. They do help extensively with our expenses. I'm not complaining. I'm thanking you guys. Thank you so much, Alias. That is true, actually. I'm just kidding. As far as the Wendy question, I agree. I mean, we just got through Donna's trial. I really didn't want to talk much about Wendy. Someday, there was evidence that the state introduced that made it look like Wendy was involved and knew. There was also some evidence questioning whether Wendy was involved. So it is weird. There's less evidence, of course, a ton less evidence against Wendy. There's nothing post-bump about Wendy. So it would be a much, much harder case regardless, right? And I doubt that she's going to make the mistakes that Donna made. That made the state's case a lot easier. But will they someday just go to the grand jury and say, this is what we got? Not file charges, but just go to the grand jury and ask the grand jury if they think that there's enough. So they might do that. That's all. Thanks for watching, everyone. And thanks again, everyone, for supporting, for watching, for those of you who watch on our channel, like the videos. I uploaded a ton of material this week, and most of those videos didn't get almost any views. Like I re-uploaded the movie, The Hitman Option, the reenactment of Wendy Adelson's deposition. It would be lovely for you guys to check that video out. I re-uploaded good materials. I did edited versions of several key moments of the trial. I'm still going to do more, but I need your views to justify the time and the cost that goes into doing all of this. So I do appreciate that you're here very much. And thanks, everyone, for your support. Y'all have a good night. Thanks for watching Mentor Lawyer. Good night.